Hey, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Triathlon. Today is Thursday, September 19th, and my name is Andres. I'm joined with my co-host and co-creator, excuse me. I'm exhausted. He's also a professional triathlete competing this weekend in the Lake Tahoe Ironman, which is going to be a little dicey in terms of weather, but he's Kevin Tedonio. Hi, Kevin.
So I
Kevin
think,
is, I'm still not good with the Tom Cruise, and especially not after today's super long day. But let's give that a shot again.
hello, Andreas, and this isn't just any week. This is race week. It's all fun and games, talking and giving advice to other people, but when it's actually your skin in the game for racing, it's a little bit different story. And I feel the race nerves, like many of our viewers probably do. We're just about four days out from Ironman Lake Tahoe. Everyone's been watching the smoke. Everyone's been watching the cold weather, and we're wondering what we're going to get on race day. Who knows? There's apparently bears on the run course, and this is going to be an adventure race, that's for sure.
Now you're making that up. There's no bears on the course. That was Ironman Canada, of course. I guess there's no bears that we know of. Anything can happen in Lake Tahoe. But there was a funny thread on Slow Twitch, and it got deleted partly. But somebody joked that they had canceled the special needs bags because of the threat of bears, and I thought that was pretty funny. But it was obviously a joke, a funny one nonetheless.
Yeah, obviously they're not going to cancel the special needs, especially with the conditions being as they are. But no, seriously, there are bears up in the Tahoe area, and apparently a bear was spotted out near the run course between Lake Tahoe and Squaw Valley just a few days ago. So you might want to hang on tight to your nutrition on race day.
So speaking of special needs bags, do they come into use for you? And then how do you take it while you're on the bike? Being a pro, do they hand it to you, or do you still have to stop and grab it? I mean, how does it all unfold?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely take advantage of special needs, definitely on the bike, sometimes not on the run, but I have it prepared just in case. On the bike, I'm going to start the race with two bottles. I'm going to have a between the arms bottle and a bottle behind my seat. And then I'm going to be eating most of my nutrition just with bars and with some chomps. And I will definitely be getting two bottles and probably a reload on some bars at special needs. And for pros, fortunately, if you yell out your number, usually they hear you coming, and usually they'll hand you up the bags. But it's always a little bit iffy when you get handed a bag and you're trying to reach in the bag and navigate around people and other people on the course. Last year at Coeur d'Alene, I actually slipped off my bar and did a chest plant right under my aero bars. And believe it or not, I didn't go down somehow, miraculously, but I was trying to guzzle a Red Bull while hanging onto a bag while trying to put another bottle into my, it was just a mess. So, trying to get all that bike stuff back onto your bike and in your stomach as fast as you possibly can, it's kind of interesting, so you got to be careful. And then on the run course, I always have just a spare change of socks. Sometimes I have a spare set of shoes just in case my shoes got wet. I hate running in wet shoes, and it's always nice to have, if you're having shoe issues, especially if you're running a newer pair of shoes, you can have a pair of racing flats and maybe you can change into if you're really struggling and having issues. So that's kind of my special needs setup for race day and an Ironman.
It seems like it'd be maybe a little bit more helpful if they had musette bags like they do in the Pro Tour, because then you can just kind of slip it over your shoulder and grab what you need and then toss the rest. Maybe for the pros, it seems like it'd be a more useful setup.
Yeah, it seems like the age groupers, obviously some people take it pretty seriously and are going fast, but you have a little bit more leeway. You're not racing for money. It's not life and death, so a lot of people stop. Even I've actually stopped and taken the bottles out to put the bottles on, and you lose a couple seconds, big deal. In the course of the day, make sure you get your nutrition on board is pretty important. So, but also it can be sometimes they put the special needs in situations where you're going really fast. I prefer if they do it on kind of like a gradual uphill, so you're going slow enough where you can actually not worrying about crashing and dying while going through your bag. So hopefully at Tahoe they use that kind of reasoning and position in a slower area rather than the area where you're going 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the prudent thing to do. So of course, moving along, we're going to focus fairly heavily on this race over the weekend, primarily, well, because it's the only race, the only important race, it seems, and also because you'll be competing in it. But I want to invite, make sure that people check out our Facebook page. We post quite a few things on there, and it's a great way to interact. But the Facebook page address is facebook.com/thisweekendtriathlon, and I don't know if you have any swag left, but in the past we've been giving away some swag to people that have participated in the show and asked questions. So if you still have some of that, I'm sure you're more than happy to give it away. But also, like I said, it's a great way to interact and join us, like the page, and by all means share it with your friends and fellow triathletes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Andreas, I was attracted to Lake Tahoe for a lot of reasons, but it's a challenging race. It's at altitude. There's a lot of climbing on the bike. It's a challenging run, and there's also just the X factor of being a race at altitude with conditions. So as we go into the weekend, it looks like it's going to be quite cold on Saturday night into Sunday morning. The lows could dip down into the 20s. And I think that's going to pose a pretty interesting set of circumstances for racers as you're trying to reconcile being aerodynamic with being warm. So obviously, people spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, seeking out every single possible gram of savings. That all goes right out the window when you're coming out of the water and the air temperatures are in the 20s or 30s. So I think the key for our racers this weekend is making it through the first hour on the bike. That's going to be the coldest time of the day. It's going to be mostly in the shade. It's going to be extremely fast as we descend about 500 feet from the Lake Tahoe area down to Truckee and make our way back up over North Star. So that at least the first hour will be mostly in the shade. It's going to be cold. And most likely, if they don't cancel the swim, which they probably won't, you're going to be wet. So I think I personally will be wearing almost nothing underneath my wetsuit when I strip it off. I'm actually going to have a towel strapped to my T1 bag that I'll be toweling off, trying to dry myself off as much as I possibly can as I run into the transition tent. And from there, I'm going to transition into completely dry clothing because it's one thing to be cold. It's another thing to be cold and wet. The latter is much more dangerous. If you're wet, you're going to be risking hypothermia. So I urge everyone to really take their time in T1, put on warm clothes because you have to make it through the first hour. So I have a couple tricks here. Hopefully my competition is not watching, but hopefully our viewers at home are. I have a couple tips, some products maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't. But if you're a hiker, maybe you've seen this product before. This is a product called Snow Seal. This is actually beeswax. And what people do, you can actually get this at REI or sometimes at Lowe's or Home Depot. But what you do is you put this on your boots to actually condition it. And your skin is literally just like a layer of Gore-Tex. It breathes, it's exposed, it dries, it cracks. But using this beeswax product that people usually put on their boots and waterproof their boots, it's for all conditions, winter, summer, spring. And you can actually rub this onto your skin, and it provides like a thin hydrophobic layer to kind of block the wind and block any moisture that might be coming down. So just a thin little layer of Snow Seal can go a long ways. Maybe put it on your face, maybe put it on your legs, put it on your hands absolutely for sure. I think gloves will be needed. But this is a product called Snow Seal. I highly recommend it. I've also seen people use things like Crisco or Vaseline. Seriously, people use that kind of stuff, but I would definitely try Snow Seal. I feel it adheres the best, and the first hour of racing will absolutely help you handle those conditions. And a couple other products here. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it might be worthwhile to have some toe warmers and some hand warmers. These cost $3 or $4, and even though they're $3 or $4, I think people would be willing to pay hundreds of dollars on race morning when their hands are thawed or frozen and they're thawing out on the way down from Brockway Summit. So I think having these in T1, just being able to put them in your gloves and you can toss them at the aid stations if it's too warm. But just to have something like that, maybe even stow it in a pocket or underneath your jersey, will really help just stay warm. And if you have to toss it, who cares? If it's too warm. But it's definitely better to have it than to not have it. They weigh nothing. It's not going to affect your aerodynamics. And the last thing I always want to mention is just to have a good set of just toe warmers that you can just throw on over the toe of your shoes. As the day goes on, as aerodynamics become they start to trump the cold weather, you can rip them off and throw them at an aid station. But just getting through the first hour of the race on Sunday is going to be absolutely crucial to setting yourself up for a successful day.
Yeah, and I think the most important part about it is don't worry about the extra seconds that you can pick up by being faster transition. Just make sure that you have everything you need, and make sure that you have, like you said, these different components that will make you stay warm through the most important part, which, as you're suggesting, is going to be the first part of the bike in the shade downhill. You're going to be wet. Well, hopefully you're not going to be wet, but it's going to pay off in the end. So, moving on, I just want to mention to our viewers, obviously, we had a nice little introduction to the show today. We're trying to keep it a little bit shorter, make sure that it's within 30 minutes. So we're about halfway through almost, and want to make sure we stay on track. But competition, let's talk about the competition for this race, the men's and the women's race. Who jumps out at you as your biggest threat, if you will?
I think I'll start with the women. I would have said a few weeks ago that Angela Nath would be the obvious favorite for Tahoe, but after seeing her performance at Las Vegas just a few weeks ago, I think that she at least will have some good competition, at least in my mind. We have some competition coming from Dee Dee Griesbauer, who's from Boston, training out of Boulder right now with Siri Lindley. She's going to be used to the altitude. She really likes the cold. Dee Dee's a fantastic swimmer. She's an extremely strong cyclist. The only question mark there is her run, but I think that's usually more affected from the warm conditions. So I think Dee Dee is going to be vying for a podium. Also, we have Katarina Morrison, who just came off a pretty strong finish at Vegas herself. So I think Angela Nath is going to have her hands full. I'd say Angela's stock is going to rise considerably if they cancel the swim or shorten the swim, which is extremely likely right now if the forecast seems to hold. So I know Angela Nath is probably hitting refresh on our browser every couple hours to check the weather forecast, crossing her fingers that it gets cold. So. And then on the men's side, I think that Joe Gambles, he's going to be racing. He's from Boulder. I don't know how his training's been going the last week or two with all the rain. I know it's impacted a lot of people up there. He just came off a podium finish at the World 70.3 Championship. Joe Gambles is a little bit smaller of a guy. I think that tends to bode well for harder conditions. Like we're going to see a lot of climbing, so I think Joe Gambles, is kind of the head and shoulders favorite. Mikey Twelsick is on the start list. I don't think he'll be starting after his victory at Ironman Wisconsin just a few weeks ago. There's actually a lot of names, people that won't be starting. Mikey Twelsick I don't think is starting. I know Thomas Gerlach is not starting. A few other names that jump out at me on the men's side, Matt Russell. He's been training up in Mammoth. He's been sleeping in an altitude tent. I train with him. He's strong on the bike. He's strong on the run. Question mark for him is the swim. But like Angela, his stock will rise even more if they shorten or cancel the swim. And other names that jump out at me is Boris Stein. Boris Stein has bib number 22, so clearly not a lot of points at Ironman. I don't know if he's actually raced a full Ironman before. But Boris Stein had actually the second fastest pro bike split at 70.3 World Championships behind Sebastian Kienle. So it's a tough bike course. Somebody like that could be a dark horse, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So I'm very anxious to race. There's a couple other duathletes in the field as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
You mentioned you didn't mention Matt Lieto. I don't know if if he's racing or not, but as hairy as he is in and around the chest area, I think he'll have no problem staying warm. Maybe he'll grow a gnarly beard between now and then. I mean, we know he can grow a Grizzly Adams type of beard overnight. So I'm sure if he is racing, he's pulling out all the stops. He did. I think he got a top 5 at Mont Tremblant a few weeks back. So if he does race, I guess we could assume that he's in decent shape. But going back to the conditions, I think it's just going to be such a toss-up in terms of who. It may end up being one of those races of attrition and who can sustain and beat the elements, or at least tolerate the elements the longest, and that's who will come out victorious on Sunday.
Yeah, there's another athlete that I don't think anybody in the U.S. has ever heard of. His name is Rob Woestenborgs, and he's from Belgium. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, but he's actually the reigning long course duathlon world champion. So he might be one of those people that's also looking at the forecast. He's not a very good swimmer, but he's an excellent bike runner. So someone like that could give myself and Joe Gambles and Matt Russell some trouble on Sunday.
Well, he is from Belgium, so we know that he's used to that nasty weather that they have over there. And if you follow cyclocross, you're familiar with the type of racing that they do over there and the type of weather that they get. So good call on Rob, and certainly it's going to be interesting. Going back to the swim, I hope they don't cancel the swim. I mean, that would be a horrible thing to do for a first-year event, regardless of the water temperature. The fact of the matter is, the water's not going to be too cold. I mean, it's not going to be nearly as cold as it was for Escape from Alcatraz. The problem is going to be the air temperature coming out of the water. But I think people need to be diligent about how they prepare themselves coming out of transition, coming out of the water into T1, and doing some of the things that you mentioned so that they can actually go from the swim to the bike without any problems. So I hope they don't cancel the run. It would set a horrible precedent, and I'm sure this is not the only year, if they continue to go forward with this race, where they'll run into this sort of weather situation.
Right. Yeah, I actually hope they keep the swim in place as well. I've been training for this race, and it's not a triathlon. If you podium or you win this race, you don't win a triathlon. You win a shortened duathlon. So I'm really hoping that they have this swim. I hope the conditions are extremely cold. I hope it's an extremely hard day, but I do hope they have the swim, regardless of how cold it is. I know Ironman is almost like a McDonald's franchise, where if you go into a McDonald's in New York, you know what you're going to get. If you go to a McDonald's in LA, you know what you're going to get. With Ironman, you kind of know what you're going to get. They do tend to kind of try to flatten out how hard the courses can be and what kind of conditions you can race in. And I understand that, because safety is extremely high priority. People don't want to die in a triathlon Ironman. So, I hope they keep the swim. I hope they make it hard. But I understand if they have to pull the swim or shorten it, it's their call, and hopefully they make the right decisions.
Yeah, we could go back and forth the entire night about this, and obviously we don't want to, because I think we both want to go to bed at some point. But nobody's forcing folks to sign up for Ironman, and there's got to be some sort of race that sticks out as kind of like the tough race, the race that if you want to challenge yourself and just be a badass and feel like a badass after you finish, there's got to be one race underneath the Ironman umbrella that kind of falls into that. And I think Lake Tahoe presents itself as that what could be that race. And yeah, so I guess for similar reasons, but different reasons than yours, I hope they don't shorten it or cancel it. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see on race day, unless there's sharks, as I posted on Twitter, I think it was, or Facebook. Unless there's sharks in the water or ice on the road, there's really no need to alter the course due to temperature.
I agree. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to tuning in with our viewers next week and giving a full report and kind of a Reader's Digest to everybody that's out there. So
I don't know if you have any other race-related topic that you want to talk about, whether it's Tahoe or I don't know what else is going on this weekend. I'll be honest with you. I've been bad about keeping up this week on what's going on. I did read that Camelia Peterson was being in the process of being woken up from her, I believe, the induced coma that she was in after her accident. So I don't know how that's going. But it sounds like it's progressing a little bit, and you know, you hate to see that type of scenario, but it sounds, like I said, like things are looking up, and hopefully she's racing aside. Hopefully she's just able to get back and be normal again, if nothing more.
Yeah, we hope so. And Mary Beth Ellis, we hope. Obviously, her crash wasn't as severe as Camilla's, but you know, hope she's on the road to recovery. I'm not sure if she's going to be racing Kona or not. I don't think she will be, but you know, a lot of crashes out there. So make sure, you know, want to remind our viewers, be safe and you know, pick the right roads. You know, be smart with where you ride and how you ride. Don't be aggressive, and always wear a helmet.
And actually, speaking of crashes, a couple of weeks ago, Jordan Rapp was involved in a little incident. Luckily, nothing bad happened, but the people who actually ended up running into him, or not running into him, that's a poor choice of words, the people that actually helped him out after he had been run off the road were your good friends from Southern California and former This Week in Triathlon guest, Nina, and her husband, Dana, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Nina and Dana are avid amateur triathletes. Nina's on Team Rev 3, and she's also works on the show Breaking Bad. So that's always nice to know somebody that works on our favorite show. But yeah, they were the first responders, from what I understand, to Jordan's accident, and they insisted on giving him a ride back to a place where a friend could pick him up. And I think they noticed how severe some of his injuries were, and hopefully Jordan is also on the road to recovery. But it was interesting to see that you know, I have some vigilant friends that were willing to help out a triathlete in need. So it's good on Nina and Dana. So
I've had a super long day today. I was at Interbike in Las Vegas, which I can only take in small doses, but I want to show some people. You know, you work with Santini, and here's a picture of their catalog. I happen to go talk to Paula. There you go. Let's click on your screen so that actually people can see that Santini logo. Of course, you're wearing your shirt, which is actually a real comfortable polo. Actually, I have one that I really enjoy. But I was looking through the catalog, and this is what I ran into. Look, do you recognize who that is?
That's a nice shot there. That's a nice ass.
You know, I just noticed that you were nice enough to put a K-Edge sticker on your helmet, which, like I said, until right this second I hadn't noticed. But so you're in the what they call the Team Up catalog. That's really cool. Your modeling career is off to a good start. And anybody who picks up a Santini custom clothing catalog will see you on your S-Works Shiv tri-bike.
Right. Well, speaking of my Shiv tri-bike, I'm looking forward to racing it this weekend, but also I'm looking forward to riding a new Shiv in the near future. I'll be warranting the one I have now immediately following the race after breaking my C-post collar. So my red Shiv might be traded in for another color, I think. But it was cool to see that in the catalog.
Either that, or you know, going into 2014, perhaps there's an opportunity to, you know, it's being a professional athlete, you're never married to one brand. So I'm curious to see how things pan out, whether it's a Shiv or something else. I'm sure you'll be well taken care of. But just to talk a little bit about Interbike, as we have about 5 minutes left before we have to say goodbye, just so that we stick to our format that we're very excited to be trying out for the first time. But you've been to Interbike. I'm not a huge fan. I think by the time the Interbike comes around, you've seen most of the stuff either at the dealer events or Eurobike. So how do you feel? What are your thoughts about it?
You know, I actually love Interbike. I like to see people I haven't seen in a long time. I love gear. I love Las Vegas, so I love going out, you know, grabbing a big breakfast, getting a coffee. I like walking the show and seeing gear that I've never seen before, meeting people from different countries. Meeting a lot of people. That's
the thing. There's none of that. There's I can see how you like seeing people that you haven't seen in a long time, but I walked around today and I think there were like two things that I hadn't seen, before. And not to say that there weren't more, but it just seems like a lot of this stuff, being that we live in the age of the internet, is already been out and seen, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of the big names. Like, you see a lot of the specialized stuff that's kind of leaked on people's bikes, but you go by some of the European smaller distributors. You go by the Fair Wheel Cycles booth, and you get to see a lot of custom things. And if you go down to the lower levels, you get to see people that make custom-made shoes out of carbon fiber that weigh 100 grams, half the weight of a specialized S-Works shoes. And you get to see little things like that you never really hear of. I'm talking about Simmons shoes that are out of Florida. They're $1,800 for a pair of shoes. But had I not gone Interbike, I never would have seen those. And I kind of like that kind of stuff. It's more the artisan side. I think we've kind of lost that the last few years, the last decade or so. But I enjoy it, and I don't really need to be pushed too hard to go to Las Vegas. I actually enjoy Las Vegas for in small doses. For a day or two, it's good, and then it's time to get out.
Yeah, my dose was about 12 hours, if that, and that was plenty for the next year. In terms of the venue, it actually moved to Mandalay Bay, so there is no longer a lower level. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and anybody who's been to Interbike knows exactly what you're talking about. And it does seem to have a little bit different vibe today. Mostly coming in, it's a little bit nicer than the old Sands Convention Center. So I did enjoy that. And talk about standing at the Starbucks line in the morning was fascinating. I mean, you talk about the cycling industry's coffee habits. They're insane. I mean, I heard a 6-shot Americano. I heard about a 5-shot latte. It was absolutely insane how much caffeine these people are putting into their bodies.
It's nothing compared to what I'll be jacking up myself with on Sunday. But still, yeah, on a day-to-day basis, that's kind of unhealthy.
So, what will be your last meal, if you will, the night before the race, and then what will be your breakfast on race morning?
Yeah, actually, I went shopping at Whole Foods just because I'm not sure what the shopping situation is going to look like up at Squaw Valley. I loaded up myself with actually some gluten-free options. I tend to like to wean off gluten. I'm not gluten-free or celiac, but I like to wean myself off of gluten with a couple days to go. I wean myself off caffeine about a week out just so I get that full jolt. So the night before, I'm actually going to have some tuna fish and rice. It's an old staple my mom makes. My mom's actually going to be up at the race, so I bought some rice, tuna fish, some cream of mushroom soup just to load up in there. And I'll be eating that the night before the race. Nothing with a lot of fiber, probably in the first 24 hours before the race, just because you don't want to be backed up. You want your GI system working as smoothly as possible. And then race morning, I'm going to be having some bananas mixed with some gluten-free pancakes and lots of real maple syrup and some coconut oil and maybe some almonds thrown in there. And then I'll be ready to go for race morning. I am a fan of caffeine, so I like to have a little bit of coffee about 3-4 hours before the race start just to get your GI system moving, if you will. And that's about it going into the race. I'll prepare a couple of things just immediately before the race, like maybe a caffeine pill, maybe a Red Bull, just for that extra little boost. And then I like to start taking whatever I'll be taking on the course about an hour or 2 hours before, so maybe a gel, maybe some of the drink I'll be drinking, and some bars and things like that, just nibbling on it just to get your GI going.
Well, we wish you good luck. We'll be watching from Malta, at least part of the race, and we obviously we want to thank everybody who tuned in this week. We'll be off next week as I'll be out of town, and I'll be enjoying some nice Mediterranean beaches, but nonetheless, people can still check in on Facebook and interact with us. But thanks, Kevin, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, Andres, have a great vacation.
Thanks. Take care.